The most dangerous island in the Caribbean took its name from a barbecue. That is not a joke. And the men who lived there would become the terror of the Spanish Empire. Tortuga, a small, steep island off the coast of Hispaniola, today Haiti, named the Turtle for its shape rising out of the sea, and for 60 years, the most lawless place on earth. This is how a handful of runaway hunters turned a barbecue island into a fortress that defied an empire and launched the golden age of piracy itself. It began around 1625 with the outcasts of the Caribbean, runaway servants, deserters, shipwrecked men of every nation, drifting ashore on wild Hispaniola with nothing but a musket and a knife. The island swarmed with wild cattle and pigs, so these men hunted, and they smoked the meat over slow wooden fires the natives called a boucan. In French, a boucan, and the hunters became Buccaneers, Buccaneers. It is one of history's great ironies. The most feared raiders of the age were named after the way they cooked their dinner. The Spanish saw them as vermin. To starve them out, Spain slaughtered the wild herds and drove the buccaneers from the land. It was the worst decision they could have made. With their hunting gone, the buccaneers turned to the only other prey around, Spain's own ships, and just offshore lay the perfect lair, the island of Tortuga. And these were no ordinary raiders. Years of hunting had made them the finest marksmen in the New World, with long muskets and an aim that could drop a man or a helmsman at impossible range. They bound themselves by their own rough laws, the brethren of the coast, plunder shared, disputes settled, and a custom called matelotage, two men who pooled everything they owned and inherited from each other in death. Word spread. Tortuga filled with cutthroats, and with it came everything cutthroats spend their gold on: rum, dice, and women shipped in by the boatload to keep them ashore. But a den of thieves on an open beach is easy to burn. To become untouchable, Tortuga needed one thing more, and in 1640, a French engineer gave it a fortress that no empire on earth could take. His name was Jean Levasseur. On a rock high above the harbor, he built the Fort de Rocher, rock fort, and mounted cannon that swept the entire anchorage. Any Spanish ship that entered sailed straight into the guns. Now, Tortuga was a fortress island. When the Spanish came, and they came again and again, the guns tore them apart. The buccaneers could raid the empire and retreat to a rock it could not crack. But absolute power on a lawless rock does strange things to a man. Levasseur turned tyrant, ruling Tortuga as his private kingdom, defying even France, until his own officers turned on him and cut him down. The island changed hands in blood. The Spanish stormed it more than once, putting the settlers to the sword. But Tortuga always rose again. There was too much money in it to die. From this rock sailed the most terrible names of the age. Francois l'Olonnais, whose cruelty was a byword even among pirates, and a young Welshman rising through the Brethren, learning his trade before the world would know him as Henry Morgan. From Tortuga, they fell on the Spanish Main, sacking cities, seizing treasure fleets, torturing prisoners for the location of their gold. For a generation, the richest empire on earth lived in fear of a barbecue island. Then, France saw the opportunity. In 1665, it sent a governor, Bertrand d'Ogeron, a man who didn't fight the Buccaneers, but organized them, licensed their raids against Spain, and made Tortuga the beating heart of French power in the Caribbean. He finished the great fort, brought settlers, and even shipped in wives to turn a pirate den into a real colony. Under d'Ogeron, Tortuga reached its peak, the launch pad for the golden age to come. We know all this because one man lived it and wrote it down. Alexandre Exquemelin sailed with the Buccaneers, and in 1678 published his account, the book that gave the world its picture of pirates and gave the Buccaneers their legend. Life on Tortuga was short and violent. Between raids, the men drank away fortunes, gambled, and killed one another over a card or an insult. On this island, a man's life was worth less than his musket. No island packed more armed, desperate, lawless men into so small a space. It earned its reputation honestly, the most dangerous island in the Caribbean, and perhaps on Earth. But the very success of the Buccaneers doomed them. As France tightened its grip on Hispaniola, it no longer needed raiders. It needed order. The men who built the colony were becoming its embarrassment. In 1684, France and Spain made peace. Overnight, raiding Spanish ships turned from patriotic duty into a crime. The Buccaneers were pushed into honest privateering, or hunted down as the outlaws they had always been. And in 1697, by the Treaty of Ryswick, Spain signed the whole western half of Hispaniola over to France. Tortuga's guns fell silent. The most dangerous island on Earth had become just another corner of a quiet French colony. But the Buccaneers didn't vanish. Their code, their brotherhood, their black flags sailed on, north and east, into the Bahamas and the Caribbean, where a new generation would call themselves pirates and light up the golden age. Tortuga was where it all began, the barbecue island that taught the world how to be a pirate. Every code, every crew, every legend that followed traced its blood back to that rock off the coast of Haiti. Today, the taverns are gone, and the fort is a ruin in the brush. But archaeologists still climb that rock, searching the stones for the men who once made an empire tremble. It started with hunters and a smoking fire. It ended with a fortress, an empire, and the birth of the pirate legend. All from one small, dangerous island named for a turtle. The barbecue island made the pirates. The wickedest city made them rich. And the sea, in the end, took it all back. For more true stories from the age of sail, follow the channel.